This is On the Scene with Carissa Des, and I am here with my very special guest,
Lisa Vazquez.
and we are here in her studio, actually. I originally found your music on Instagram, actually. It just popped up in my feed that you moved from Portland, actually, to the LA area.
Yes.
Yeah. How long have you been here for?
So I moved here at the end of 2019. So it's about going on to 4 years now, and it zoomed by. Like it's just really, first it was, so I moved here right before the pandemic, but it's still been a really amazing experience to be out here and just make so many connections. And the weather is amazing, of course, but mostly just like the musical connections and just other creatives and artistic folks out here is just through the roof, and cultural variety, just diversity is just, also really great.
How did you get through the pandemic musically? Because I know it was hard on everybody, of course, but were you just in the studio all the time making music, or were you just chilling during that time?
Yeah, well, so luckily I had been doing quite a bit of teaching online before that. And so I just kind of continued that, and that amped up a lot more throughout the pandemic. So people would hit me up to either do workshops or one-on-one lessons and stuff like that. I even, right before the pandemic, I went to El Salvador to do a program where I taught kids like music production out there. And
El Salvador, that's awesome.
So doing teaching kind of really helps supplement that whole thing, because obviously no live shows and stuff. But it gave me a chance to really like hone in on more, just work that I wanted to do for releasing my own music, and kind of hone in on my goals and whatnot. But it was a weird time, like, to be honest.
So what got you to move to LA from Portland?
Well, the scene in Portland was really supportive and cool, but at the same time, like, I felt like there wasn't as many opportunities just in general. So I kind of wanted to just see where else I could expand. And I was deciding between New York and LA, and I landed on LA. Just I knew more people to be able to like kind of initially connect with when I got down here. And so that was an easier transition. And I'm really glad I made that decision, because during the pandemic, I think it would have been a lot harder in New York, just for one, weather-wise, like it froze over, and it just would have been, I think, a lot more complicated as a transition. So, but, mostly just for, career options.
I've been down here for less than a week, and I've already made so many new connections and met so many like creatives. So I just keep running into people, and I'm like, I feel like I already know like most of the creatives in Portland. So it actually is a pretty small city when at least in the music scene. I came from Walla Walla, Washington, so it was a big city. But now that I've been there for 8 years, I'm like, this is actually very small. Like everybody knows everybody, which is kind of cute. But also, if you're wanting to get a little bit bigger and expand your music, I understand why you would want to go somewhere like LA. So
definitely.
What have you noticed? What are the differences between the music scene here and compared to Portland?
I would say one of the main differences is that here it's viewed way more as a primary career. Just it's accepted as that's what people do here. So as opposed to in Portland, I feel like when you tell people that you do something creative, they're like, okay, but what do you do for a living?
Yeah, what's your day job?
And because it's just not as supported by the infrastructure of the city and the state or whatever. It's like the arts are heavily supported by the city here. And just by people in general. So, there is just more money here to be able to pay for people to do what they love to do creatively. And it's really obvious. So it's like people don't balk at like a $20 cover, like in Portland, like people would be like, I don't know, I need to
everybody tries to get in for free.
Yeah, exactly. And here it's like, they want to support you, and they're not, people don't really question a cover here. It's just that's, you paid to see music or art or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So is music is your main job then now?
Yeah. So that's what I do full time. Awesome. It's been about 5-6 years that I've been doing that full time. And it's been great. I just kind of took the plunge to do it that way. And the universe has supported me, I guess is the best way I could put it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if things are going smoothly, I know that I'm going in the right direction. Well, sometimes actually there's some challenges in the way there too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely,
I think that's what separates the people who give up to, from the people who keep going and who make it as their career. So what are some of the bumps in the road that you've witnessed since you've moved here?
Well, a lot of things, but definitely just getting around was a huge like adjustment. Just, everybody says how spread out it is and the traffic and everything, but it is a lot. Like if you're trying to, meet people places or, network with people, whatever, it's a lot to navigate. Traffic is kind of nonstop. It's not like
I would not
really
survive without Google Maps here.
Yeah. It's just like, it is, people are very aggressive driving and everything. But, and then of course, like the prices of everything, not just like to like the rent and stuff, but, going out to have drinks, it's like, even well drinks will be $20, like a well shot. And that is kind of shocking, coming from somewhere where it's, you can go out and still, not have to spend half your paycheck or half your rent, to like just go out and have a good time or whatever.
So do you make a lot of your living from doing shows or like from your streams or?
So I do
a little bit of both.
A bunch of different things. So as I mentioned, the teaching that definitely supplements the income. I do a lot of brand partnerships. So I have like gear companies reach out to me and I'll do like this. Yeah, like Jetpack, shout out. Or like right behind you, there's the Isla Instruments S2400. I don't know if you can see that in the shop, but pieces of gear that I'll do some promo or do like sound design for the piece of gear. And so I'll get money for doing those kind of things and shows, of course, but I try not to play as many shows. I try to be more selective of it. I don't want to like overdo it. And so I just want to be a little more selective of the shows and everything.
Yeah. So you teach online too?
That's what I mostly teach online, but I do stuff in person. Both I've done the international stuff, like I mentioned, but then I've done stuff at some schools. Like outside of LA, there's a youth builds program that I did like a term of teaching for those kids that were about high school age. And so I've done that here, but a lot of it's been online. So just like either one-on-one or just doing like workshops for people who hit me up and they're like, hey, I'm doing this event and we want you to teach a music production workshop. And, just being that I'm a woman, I think it has opened up a lot of doors in that department just to have other women feel comfortable, like learning from somebody, from a woman is just something.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. This company.
Isla Instruments. Yeah.
Isla Instruments. You said that you did sound design for them. What is that?
So basically sound design will be creating like sound packs for other producers. So it's like I'll make drum sounds or melodic sounds. Like I have, like bass and guitar or keyboards, and you just make a little piece of a song basically, and then you put that together in a folder, and then
they just push
they have
a button.
that. Yeah, they have that available there, so where they can create their own songs out of the sounds that I provide. So that's pretty popular now, or has been for a long time in the producer community. Basically, where just producers will put together different sounds, and you can either sell them individually as like packs that you just promote for yourself, or they can be provided like on a piece of gear, like just in the original software.
Oh,
so
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think I saw somewhere on your Instagram that you mentioned that you're a loop vixen. Can you explain to us? Can you explain what loops are to people who don't know?
Okay,
because that's what I've originally seen you do, is like creating loops, and I was just mesmerized because I hadn't really seen that a whole lot
before I got into the production and the way that I'm doing it now. I was doing mostly live looping. So basically, let's see. Well, my gear's not right next to me, but I have like a looper, and then I can loop a drum sound and then loop vocals or instruments and then just create a whole song out of that. And so that's what I was doing live before I really got into using the MPC, which is the piece of gear that I use primarily now for my live shows. But it's really super interactive, kind of spontaneous way to create music that I love, but it can be like it can be difficult.
Yeah. Is it something that you kind of have to be in the mood for to do, or you just like get in the headspace to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm. It's not so much about like being in the mood for it for me as it is like it's just with the complications technically can be hard, because if you're in a live setting, like when you loop something, say if it's like a lot of background noise or the sound isn't great and you get some feedback, that'll get caught in the
gotcha.
in
so
the,
if somebody's
the
like
recording.
Yelling in the
And so it's like if there's any issues or if you get distracted and then you get thrown off, then it's like that throws the whole thing off. But just with practice, you can kind of get over those obstacles, but at the same time, yeah, it can be a little nerve wracking. So sometimes it's nice to be able to have something a little more reliable so that you can focus more on like if you're going to do vocals or whatever else. Like,
yeah. So a lot of times you have your loops already created and then you add instruments to it and like vocals too, like when you're live.
Yeah. So
Okay.
well, right now when I'm live, I'll do, I'll have something on my MPC that I'll still I'll perform it live. Like I'll play part of it, like either the drum part or just like, do some of the melody live. And then I do live looping still with my vocals. So I'll loop my vocals to make harmonies and then either sing or rap over that to add more of a live element to it. Cause I always just like to have some kind of live element. So it's not like I'm just like pressing a button and being like, hey, this is my song.
Yep. And you play several instruments. You play the guitar, the bass, keyboard. Is there anything else? And you use vocals as well. So
well, drums was actually my first instrument. So I played drum kit when I was like 15, just starting out. And then I did hand percussion a lot. So I played congas and did like, Latin percussion stuff. That's when I was mostly like singing, doing percussion. And then the guitar and the bass stuff that came like a little later, and the keyboard stuff too. But so yeah, the rhythm was definitely like the first thing that got me started with the music. But I wanted to learn the guitar and keys and stuff so I could, for songwriting purposes, because it's really hard to write a song with just drums.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can, but it's a little more difficult for sure.
how did you get into music? Did you have a lot of family members who played music, or how did you grow up around it?
A little bit. Like one of my uncles, two of my uncles were heavily into music. One was a bass player and songwriter, and then the other one he did guitar played guitar and wrote songs that way. And but my parents weren't musically inclined really. They're more on the like science medical field.
Oh, okay.
So it's completely different. But
So is it one of those things where like your parents wanted you to do one thing and you rebelled and started doing something else and then you ended up being great at it? Or
no.
I kind of did that when my mom wanted me to be a nurse and I went a different direction. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, my parents really were luckily like supportive of that I was wanting to get into music. And so, yeah, I just kind of tried out some different things but didn't get really serious into it until later, like, after I'd been doing it for several years. But it's been a long journey with it, just like figuring out like what I even want to do. And I'm still figuring it out. I mean, to be honest, like it's always a journey. Like I've gotten a ways, but it's always evolving.
they say that the journey is the fun part, but sometimes it can be stressful until you figure out like kind of a path, I think, But
Yeah. I mean, I feel
like you definitely have a path carved out and you're also helping, like we talked about, other women to find their path as well. So from what I could see.
I mean, that's amazing to, just the times when I've gotten like messages or something from people or had people come up to me and say that it's like inspired them to do something or other, even if it has nothing to do with music, because, just seeing somebody else like doing something like
something that they
like,
kind of create, like a career that they created almost. I think that's inspiring to a lot of people to keep, because a lot of people reach out to me too. They're not journalists, but they're like, oh, I see you keep going and you don't stop. So that like just doing that encourages people to like keep going with your craft.
It's like, it's like you're, like you said, you're carving the path. You don't really have, there's no guidebook. You're just kind of like doing what feels right to you and trying to make it work however you can. It's just inside of you. You're just like, I want to be doing this. This feels right. And I might mess up all the time, but it's, that's how you learn. And yeah.
I always say you can't win until you've lost like several times.
Yeah.
Who inspired you? Like which artist inspired you growing up to make music?
Oh man. So many, but let me think. Like, so when I was first like starting out learning music, I did look up to some female artists. Like there was some I don't know their names, so like female band members of Prince, like Prince's band. He usually had like a lot of like a female drummer. Actually, I think Sheila E was his female drummer. Who
Didn't he make a song about her?
He was, and I think that he proposed to her and she turned him down. Fun fact.
Oh, damn. How do you turn down Prince?
Well, I guess he's
probably like
to you what I don't really know.
Yeah, well, I can imagine he's probably not a committed person.
Exactly. Yeah. So she was just saying like she couldn't handle the, just like the free love kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I get that. That's pretty obvious.
But yeah. And so, yeah, but she's amazing, super talented and just powerhouse. And then, but there was also like, some other, like he had a female like bassist and then keytar or something like that and saxophone player. And I was like, yeah, like that's amazing. Like just to be able to, to be creative and, put yourself out there. So those are some of the first inspiration, but and then just huge long list like Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson.
Kind of like that same kind of soulful pop sound.
Yeah. Like. That was like the original probably inspiration. But then, since then, tons of different hip hop artists or just soul, jazz, world music, like all sorts of different stuff. So, the list is always,
you're one of those type of people that listens to all genres of music.
Yeah, mostly. I wouldn't say all genres. But yeah, like soul, funk, jazz, blues, and then like Latin and Afro Latin kind of stuff. So those are probably like the top ones.
If you could perform with anybody on stage, living or dead, who would it be?
Living or dead? Prince would be amazing. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I feel like he's so like versatile in his music, and I feel like you're the same way. So you could come up with some really funky stuff.
That'd
good
be
funky.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. So many people. It's like anytime there's a question like that, like my mind kind of goes blank because it's just like there's just like so many different people.
Yeah, I always pick the same. I always pick Lil Yachty for everything because that's just the first one that comes to my mind. And he's very versatile as a hip hop artist. He mainly does hip hop, but it's all like kind of pretty versatile in that genre, I guess.
Okay, I might have to give a little heavier listen to Lil Yachty now and see.
Yeah, you definitely should. So AI, of course, is making more of an appearance in the entertainment world industry. How do you feel about AI being used to create music? Because I know that you use a lot of electronic devices to make your music, but how do you feel about like people making almost all their songs with AI?
I really don't think it's going to have too much of an impact. People seem to be worried that it's going to, take over in some kind of bad way. But my personal opinion, really, if you take away a human element of something, it's going to be obvious that the human element is taken away. And even if not, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that really has lasting power is something that like really tells a story and has just like, just more humanity to it. So that I don't know that AI is really going to replace that. Like it can do loops, it can do a genre, it can do, whatever you tell it to do, but it's not going to be something that's has a story. I don't know. That's kind of my thought on it.
Yeah, a lot of artists think that it's going to take over. Well, just a lot of workers, people in general think that AI is going to take their job, but I think AI is a tool that can help us to make better music, possibly. I don't know, though. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm sure people thought that and still think that about all sorts of like, even just a lot of the gear that comes out. I hear people all the time, like fighting against like, oh, this isn't real music because, you're using a digital
like auto-tune or something.
Yeah. And there's arguments to that, but it's just like, well, just don't listen to that then.
Exactly. Like there's always been like techno and EDM and that's all electronic, but it's still made by a person and it's still,
Yeah. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And it's not, I don't think it should be something people get really worried about necessarily, but
yeah, I agree. What do you think music will be like in like 50 years from now?
50 years. Ooh.
Like all, what's that guy's name? Like electronic EDM type stuff? Or do you think it'll go back to like folk? Just with a guitar and a voice kind of a thing?
I don't think it's necessarily going to go back to that, but I do think honestly during the pandemic, at least I noticed that a lot of people were connecting more with something that made them feel like more human. And especially since we kind of took away the ability to be able to connect in person. Yeah. It's like people really appreciated just, something that could, make us feel connected in a more emotional way. So again, that's something like with all and this is just, obviously my personal opinion, but like EDM and a lot of that kind of stuff, like it isn't necessarily very emotional, at least in my opinion. So it's, I think it'll be a blend because there's always going to be some, especially the way technology is going, that's going to take off in a direction. But there's still always going to be people that'll just make music with analog instruments with guitars or drums or whatever. That's there's always going to be a audience for that. So
yeah, I think that music keeps evolving, but also the older stuff is relevant too. Like doo-wop isn't really too much of a thing anymore. Like there's still a little bit, but I guess you could say that there's some genres that are dead, but really they've just evolved. So I personally think that we're going to have, of course, all the music that we had before, but maybe some new genres in there too.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm excited to see.
Who knows?
If you had a chance to do a concert on the moon, would you do it?
How much are they paying me is the question.
What if it was just the ticket? I don't know. How much would you?
I don't know.
have to get paid?
I mean, well, I guess it wouldn't be as much about the money, but I mean, a little bit scares me to space travel. But,
Same.
Yeah, I mean, if all the conditions where I felt safe and it was worth it, just like any other show, I guess. Like, then
I'm mainly afraid
it.
to I don't know. I get claustrophobic, so to be in like a little spaceship and like a suit, I don't know. That's the part that I'm not really into. But
yeah, I mean, that would be wild. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other topic. Like, as
being
far
the
as
first person to make a song on the moon, like that would be pretty dope. I don't know.
That would be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely more like into traveling around this planet before I go.
There's still a lot to travel here.
So,
and it seems like you're more into, well, I don't know if you're more into, but you do a lot of your, like you record your music outside, or like you at least like make a lot of videos of you making music outside. Mm-hmm. So, it seems like you like being in nature too. So it seems like, and just looking around here, it's like, I see a lot of nature here. So
I got, so I went to school for audio engineering, but also got a degree in horticulture. So I love plants and environmental. Like I went to school for environmental engineering a little bit before I did the horticulture stuff. So, definitely like nature and doing stuff that's kind of reconnects you back with nature is super big for me. So, I mean, and that's something like as the years go on, I'm just like, I do love all this music stuff, but like really doing something that's going to be impactful to like help the planet in some way is also really important to me. I miss that about Portland.
Me too. Like when I get old, I'll be a biologist, like what's it called? Or like an environmental scientist or something like that to try to save the world.
Mean, why do you have to wait till you get old? You could just do that something like I'm still trying to figure out ways to like integrate.
I recycle. That's my part right now.
I mean, you got to,
start somewhere.
You got to live it first, just like live by example. But yeah,
they don't really. A lot of people don't really recycle here in LA. I've noticed it's so hard because I'm like, I don't really want to put that beer bottle in the garbage, but there's nowhere to put it because not everybody has a recycle bin. Or does anybody have a recycle bin here?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have one here, but I remember one of the places I was subletting at this apartment complex, and they just didn't have recycling at the whole apartment complex, and I was like, wait, what? Like it just kind of blew my mind because in Portland, I mean,
it's like a big part of your life there, or just like something you naturally do.
Yeah, it's so normal, and here, not as much. I mean, people, there's definitely some people that do care about that stuff, but I mean, I think it's not as widely accepted or normalized or whatever.
It seems like most people don't care as much, but
hopefully
we can make a difference. You and I will hopefully change things. We'll see. Yeah. We'll do our part.
Yeah.
So are you inspired by nature and or like with your music? Does that inspire your music and what other things inspire your sounds and your music that you make today?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely nature. Well, that's a place where, I mean, anytime I go like just out, like whether it's the beach or the forest or desert, anything like that, like I can clear my head and just kind of, reconnect with like what I'm trying to say with the music. But yeah, I think a lot of the times I'm just trying to like connect in some kind of emotional way. It's like can be kind of vague, but like usually I try to instill just some kind of like bittersweet emotion. I don't know how else to put it. Really.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, something that's just like, just show some kind of like humanity. And then I'm definitely not like trying to promote like, money and fame and whatever bullshit, like just kind of stuff that's to me is all surface and not important. So I try to talk about, or, at least, or if it's just an instrumental, just try to instill something that just like makes people think about like their humanity.
Speaking of like money and success or money and fame, what is your idea of success? Is it what you're doing now where you can make a living solely off music, or what is success for you like in 10 years? Where's like best case scenario? Where's pretty like what's your dream for 10 years from now? Yeah,
so I definitely think about this a lot, and a huge part of it is just to be able to put my music out there, like definitely making a living or having, enough time to be able to do it in the first place. And then just putting the music out there and hopefully it'll get, to as many years as possible. And that's the part where the fame kind of comes into play, but it's not, to me, it's not about like, really getting famous in a like, you know, being out there and being recognized, but just being able to have it heard. So
right. And
it's like it kind of goes hand in hand. So that's tough. But
I think a lot of people see like searching or like going for fame as something that's negative. But I think if you create really good music that reaches the masses, that makes you famous, and that's okay, you know. But I think it's you have to do it for the right reasons too, or like in my opinion, like it's not just about like, hey, I want to be seen just because I want to be in the spotlight, but more like you said, like you want to share your music. I think that's a noble way to go about it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as you were saying that, I'm just like, so it's not so much like famous, because famous, you can get famous for literally anything. It's just people
making
being
like
able
a
to
cool
see it
TikTok
and like,
video or something.
Yeah. And so that's definitely not, you know, the goal, but just like, you know, being successful as far as, having something be shared and getting the message out there, however it can be. And that's, I mean, super vague, but also like, I mean, in my mind, I know what it means.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So what do you have coming up in the near future, like project wise?
So I have been a long time coming, like putting out, I have 3 albums coming out through Soul Spasm and Chavez Sound, who I just am now doing a deal with. So that's pretty exciting. So they're just like it's a hip hop label and distributor. And so doing that, and I've got a bunch of singles kind of leading up to those albums. So just finally releasing,
coming out at one time.
They'll be back to back, but there's going to be, we were supposed to do 15 singles leading up to 3 albums, which is a lot, but I have just so much music that I've built up over the years. And when it comes to releasing stuff, I just really have a hard time with that process. I overthink it and just like, I want it to be so perfect, but then I end up just kind of like, you know, analysis paralysis with that part. And I get wrapped up also in just like a million other projects that I'm doing. So it's like,
I feel that
having somebody else that's kind of like guiding the way and like holding me accountable. That's exactly what I need right now. So that's helping me just get it out there, and, you know, whatever happens, and I can always make more music.
You seem like the type of person who's always creating new music, or you're always making music like on a daily basis. Am I wrong?
Pretty much. Since I did, I switched my studio from a different room in my house to this one. So that was like a little bit of a lull. But yeah, I mean, actually lately, like in this last like 6 months or a year, I've kind of been trying to balance like other parts of my life a little more. So I obviously still like do a lot with the music, but I want to be able to give myself breaks.
Yeah, like have a social life.
Yeah. It's like, I don't really like allow myself. It's like every day I'm just like, okay, there's this 10 million mile list that I'm trying to get through. And I don't want to live like that. Like that's actually, if I want to talk about success is not feeling like you always are pressured to do so many things in a day. And it's just like, you can just relax and just be like, it's okay, just existing.
Yeah, that's really hard as a creative, like a true creative. Because I think there's obviously so many music artists out there, but there are some that are true creatives. And then there are some who kind of just learn how to make music and kind of learn from other people. But true creatives, I feel like, have a hard time focusing on just one thing. Cause you said that you feel like right now you need guidance, and also taking breaks. And I'm one of the people who is similar to you, where I'll be working on 5 projects, and then in the middle of the night, this light bulb will go off, or, you know, go up in my head, and I'm like, okay, this is a great idea. I have to tell my friends about it. So that's, I think that's one of the hardest parts of being a creative. Like after figuring out how to monetize what you're doing so you can continue doing it, the second hardest thing, in my opinion, is figuring out how to like rein it all in and put it into a package rather than having so many projects going on. Yeah,
that's it's huge. I mean, and that's something that's like, I think for anyone, creative or not, like you really just like honing in on what's important, what's like what kind of manifesting the life that you actually want to live, and not just focusing so much on that like narrow view of success. Like what does success mean, like holistically, like our physical health, our mental health, our, you know,
it's like a good balance,
things, family, you know, and like just your day-to-day routine, all these things that like we tend to neglect sometimes because we're so like hyper focused on this one thing. And, you know, it's good to have goals, of course, but you know, I think we're better just to tackle those things if we like nourish those other parts of our lives equally. And it's hard to do that sometimes. So.
Sometimes I wish that I was somebody who could work like a 9-to-5 job in an office, but my brain just doesn't work like that. Like if I could just be content and comfortable and be okay with that, my life would be easier, but also it'd probably be boring too. It'd be a little bit more boring.
Yeah.
But some people are okay with that type of life.
No, I mean, I think there's definitely value in not having to having somebody else tell you what you should be doing for the day to be able to make money. And then you're just like, when you're off, and you're not like stressing about it or whatever. It's like when your creative life is your job and you work for yourself, it's like you're never off.
Yeah.
It's
everything kind of blends together a little
so
bit.
That's, I think one of the downsides, or one of the things that you have to like constantly like keep in check. And then, but yeah, I don't know. I think a balance between the two, and it can be nice to work for somebody for that reason. So
if you could change anything about the music scene, what would you change? And that's kind of like your legacy. So I guess the question I'm asking is, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind with your music? That is something that would change like the music scene a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess really just having like more so the music shine through rather than all the stuff that you have to do to try to promote yourself, because a lot of people quote unquote get famous because they're good at marketing, but the music itself isn't great, and there's people that'll kind of just buy into it because it's what they see. But I guess if there's a way to change that, I mean, that's what I would try to have happen. And just that, and women to really be recognized more so for other things besides selling sex, and like being like, just like, putting ourselves out there for what we're doing and intellectually, and just like our work ethic, all these other things, that's like very important as well. So also pushing that agenda or mindset, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you have my vote, Lisa Vazquez for president. I agree with all those things.
Awesome.
Well, I know that you have dinner to go to, and I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but do you have anything else that you want to say to your fans or future fans?
We'll just keep pushing it, your authentic self, like definitely staying authentic, I think is number one. Like it's hard to do sometimes, you think you have to follow some kind of trend or what you're supposed to be doing, but just do you. And, I think that's kind of the most important thing. Keep going. Yeah. So, and you can follow me, at Lisa Vazquez Music. It's spelled all nice and bold, big right here, Lisa Vazquez Music, on Instagram or on YouTube and all the things. So, yeah.
And on Spotify and everything too?
Spotify as well. Yes, okay. I need to push my Spotify because I've been releasing more music. I'm going to continue to do so. So you can find me more on all the streaming platforms as well. So.
Awesome.